Good morning, Encounter family. It's nice to see all of you here this morning, and just want to welcome you for those of you who are at home watching online. This is kind of a special Sunday for us, and Pastor Rob and Lindsay are back from their sabbatical, and so we have been waiting for them to come back for a long time, and so these are fun days. I know that you probably have been very curious about what has been going on in their lives over these past few weeks. And so today, we just wanted to have an opportunity for you guys to hear a little bit about what they did while they were on sabbatical and about how God really worked in their hearts. So we're going to invite them to come on up and just have a seat, and we're going to have a little bit of a conversation today about how sabbatical was. Good to have you guys. You know, I got to tell you something. Rob and I were standing at the back door. He came in and he goes, "Hey, got the same shirt on." He goes, "I'm changing." What do you have, like a Superman closet in your office or something where you can just change your shirt?
No, I had this one underneath.
Oh, it was underneath.
I like the Venice shirt, so I thought I would go with it.
All right. Well, you know, we don't.
Great minds think alike.
That's what I say.
Couldn't believe that.
We talk about girls, right, when they wear the same outfit.
That's how I was, and I sound like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. It's not going to happen.
All right. Well, I just want to have a little bit of a conversation about how your sabbatical went. And so we're just kind of maybe do a little bit of an interview this morning. And you know, if I happen to direct a question towards one of you, it doesn't mean that the other can't answer. So speak up, Lindsay. So especially, you know, something may have taken place in your life, you know, as well. I know that, you know, on the front side of things, it feels like, well, we're sending Pastor Rob on a sabbatical. But we're sending the whole family really on a sabbatical so that they would have an opportunity to just recoup and be a family really in ways that they haven't been a family in a long time. So as you guys left to head out on sabbatical, what were some of the expectations that you had going into that, and how did it pan out?
You know, I think for me, the expectation was that as soon as Monday came, you know, everything's just going to be. But it was so hard to shut this down. And the majority of my life, I just driven, go, can't sit still. And so one of the things I told you this week, we were briefly talking about it, and we talked about this too, is coming into sabbatical, I went right guns a-blazing right to the bitter end, right? And then somehow in my mind, I was thinking by Monday, I'd be able to shut down. Because it's happened at times I could do that, but this time it just wasn't. It took me a week to kind of unplug. I don't think until we landed in Denver, I think as soon as I saw those mountains, I was like, started to unravel a little bit. And then, you know, the board was trying to challenge me, because originally the sabbatical was going to be 3 weeks, and then like half the board started laughing.
Yeah,
like,
it's not happening.
That's
that
not
way.
a sabbatical, you know, and just because I thought, oh, all I need is this, but getting into it, the expectations just a break. But when God showed up in significant ways, that's what was unexpected. So, did you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, this was our first sabbatical, but when I heard 7 weeks and like Rob's not allowed to go to the church, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so amazing. I'm going to have Rob all to myself for 7 weeks. So I was excited about that, and especially after coming out of, you know, COVID and having the shutdown and working from home with the kids and homeschooling. It was a stressful time, so I was looking forward to just, in my mind, I'm like vacation and downtime and, time together as a family, and I was just looking forward to relaxing and reading and just kind of doing whatever we wanted. So that was my expectation, really.
So how did it pan out? Is that what happened?
I mean, yeah, essentially. I mean, I would say Colorado was really relaxing and definitely what I needed because there were no kids.
Yes.
I mean, I love my kids, but the rest of the trip, my kids were there. So, being in Florida is awesome, but anytime the kids, that's me. After I got up to the top of a peak, Rob dragged me up there. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a vacation when the kids are there as much as you love your kids. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a lot more work, really, but it was still nice to have that time together as a family. And there were moments when, I had God speak to me and have that refreshing of the soul, so.
Yeah. I got to see, you guys posted some stuff on Facebook while you were gone. And so, specifically for you, Lindsay, I just saw, like, the day that you guys hopped in the Jeep and headed out, right? Yeah.
Jeeps.
Really,
Joking about your
Really?
Jeep next time?
really what we saw, what I got to see, is Lisa shared on Facebook what you had posted, and what I really saw, Lindsay, was you worshiping. Just unhindered worship, just enjoying God's beauty. It's just experiencing a relief from responsibility for just a brief period to just let go and let God, work in your life. I just thought that was really cool. Give me that back.
Yeah, I was really shocked we had just gotten off the plane, hadn't seen anything in Colorado yet. We were just in the Jeep with the top off. Sorry, I'm gonna get emotional.
Yeah.
And just immediately we were listening to worship music, and it was just, I was so overwhelmed by the presence of God's love and just how perfect it is and pure. And as much as I love Rob, and he loves me, and I love my children, it'll never touch the love that God has for us and just how perfect it is. And I was so overwhelmed with love and gratitude to all of you for blessing us with such an amazing opportunity, and just overwhelmed by God's beautiful creation.
Yeah, that's cool. So how long did it take you guys to decompress a little bit, to fully set in for this realization that you were able to be free from responsibility for a while? How long did it take for that to? As soon as you got in the Jeep, nice.
Yeah, I'd say
That's good.
for us it was Colorado, and like she said, she's never been. And leading into Colorado, we were kind of planning out this sabbatical. And I just want to echo her words. I mean, that's one of the things I want you guys to know. We feel so blessed and so honored to have a family that would take care of their leadership this way and give us this opportunity. And there's just not enough words to share how appreciative and how thankful we are to you guys and just the staff to pick up the slack and give us that space, because in ministry you're just given, and I don't think people realize the behind the scenes stuff. And you need those moments I didn't even realize, because I was fighting wanting to tail back the sabbatical, and the board was really pushing that. And that's rare for a board to do that. Like, no, we're going to push you on this. And thankful for that, and thankful for the church to bless us this way.
Yeah.
But I would say for us, I think, like Lindsay was saying, once we got in Colorado, we had time to ourselves, and just driving in the mountains and stuff. That's a state that I've had opportunities to go to time and time again, and it's just been a place that I feel like I meet God there. It's kind of like a place that a retreat, refuge for me to go if I get opportunities to go, and I wanted her to experience that. And prior to going, and we were planning it, she was like, Colorado, I want to go to the beach. Beach is vacation. I'm like, well, just trust me. And we're getting closer to it. And about 2 days into it, we're in Boulder going out to eat, and she grabs my arm. She goes, "Okay, you're right. This was good." Now, can we talk about other things I'm right on? But no, we're going to get into that.
Well, what were some of the things that you guys set out to accomplish? I mean, what did you have in your mind that this sabbatical would be like?
Well, I want to do some things together as we could, things with the family. But for us, for me, my prayer was that her and I could connect out in Colorado and just have some time for us and just really talk about things that we don't have, because of the kids and then just with COVID and everything. We just had so much different responsibilities and different things that we hadn't had time to really share what's going on underneath the hood, if you will. And so being able to go out there and doing things like hiking and just enjoying each other's company. Like in those moments, I believe God speaks through this relationship to reflect something he wants to show, that sometimes we're so driven that we can't see, and sometimes it's right next to us that God wants to show us a side of his love. So I was just really open to that, and I think she was too. And there's that picture up there with her laying out. I got to share this story. You'll like this. Yeah, I know you will. So this is, we're going up Rocky Mountain National Park. So northern Colorado, when you go up the mountains, you don't really, you're going up, but you don't see it like southern Colorado, where in southern Colorado, it's like you're at 9,500 feet, and then there's 14,000-foot mountain, and you're like, whoa! Just, it's like flat ground, and then boom, there it is, and it's just breathtaking. Northern Colorado, you kind of work your way up. And so one of the things being out in Colorado that I said that you need to do is you need to drink a lot of water because it's altitude, right? And, we bought trail mix and things like that because you know to eat stuff too because that helps with your oxygen. So I was telling her, okay, make sure you have the water and make sure you do this, keep doing this. And we had our water set. We get in the Jeep. We head out to up to Rocky Mountain National Park. And so we start heading up there. And as we're driving, she's doing everything she needs to do. But I'm like, I run. I don't need to take this. I could sip on a little bit of water. I'm in shape. And she's like, you need to drink a little bit more. I got it. I feel great. And we're driving up there taking pictures. And then we get to the top. We hike up this trail to see this unbelievable landscape. And we get up there and she does that. She's like, I'm good. She's drinking water and stuff like that.
He was like way ahead of me the whole time. He was like, and I'm like stopping every 5 steps. Like I couldn't breathe. I mean, it was so steep and so, yeah.
Thin air.
Thin air. And I'm waiting for her, and finally we get up there, and it's just amazing. Then we drive up. So we get to Alpine Lodge Lookout, which is on top of Rocky Mountain National Park. Just awesome. I was hoping we would see elk and some other animals, but they were so far down you couldn't even make them out. So I put up a prayer that day. I said, Lord, I just really want her to see some of what Colorado has to offer as far as the animal, and maybe even a moose. But I knew that was rare because moose are rare. So we're driving down, and we're starting to drive down, and we're getting near the bottom, and I'm like, start getting a headache. Like, man, I don't feel good. We're driving back to the hotel. Yeah, I asked her if she had a headache. She's like, I'm good. And so we get to the hotel, I should say, and my head is pounding. It's like the worst migraine. As soon as we get back, I knew what it was, altitude sickness, which I should know better. But me, thinking, I'm in shape, I don't need it. So 3 hours I'm in the hotel room just with a pounding headache. You get nauseous. And so she's like, well, I'm going to go to the restaurant because we're I'm like,
Party!
Go ahead. I just need to, I think I'm going to die. And literally, I was in the bed just going like on my hands and knees, just going back and forth because it was pounding so much. And I'm like, I think of 2 Chronicles 7:14, where it says, if you humble yourself, give up your wicked ways. And I'm thinking, Lord, I am so sorry. I should have drank my water. I should have had those peanuts. And so about 3 hours later, she came and got me aspirin, and then, the nauseousness, and I should have listened, but so I said, after she got back to the hotel, she goes, you're hungry? And then that time, I hadn't ate all day. I'm like, I'm hungry. So I had her go down and Arby's and get me a triple decker, beef and cheddar, large
beef?
Coke. Feed me. She brought it back about 10 minutes later, it was gone. But that just goes to show you. So she was right, here I am. So guys, you know, you're not as in shape as you think you are. So, you know, listen to your own advice.
Yeah. Well, this is the question that I really, this week, have been really wanting to ask, is while you guys were gone, whether it was in Colorado or when you went south to Tennessee and Florida, where is it that God snuck up on you? I mean, where did you encounter him in a way when it was just unexpected? Was there a time like that? I mean, for each of you, were there moments when God just snuck up on you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would say that moment in the Jeep, I mean, I hadn't really experienced anything yet, seen anything other than just like the mountains in the distance, but just listening to the worship music, I was definitely surprised with the amount of emotion coming out of me and just like tears streaming down my face. And that was definitely a really powerful moment for me that God spoke to me, where it was just like I could breathe and just take it in. Like there's a part of me that's like, we don't deserve this. Look, what life is this? We're in a Jeep with the top off, and I mean, it's just insane. But you know, it was just a moment of God's love. Like, this is how he loves us, and he's blessed us with this church family that loves us like this. And then I would say another moment in Colorado. Yeah, and some of you probably already saw this on Facebook if you're friends with me, but the day after you saw that picture, we went to Breckenridge, and we got into a new hotel, and the concierge recommended this certain seafood restaurant, and so we went there, but overall, like, the staff just wasn't really friendly, so Rob looked at me and he's like, do you want to get out of here? And I'm like, yeah. So we start looking around for another restaurant, and we can't agree on anything, and it's starting to rain, and I'm getting hangry. And so we finally there's this restaurant that's right next to a pond, and he goes and checks it out. They can seat us immediately, so we're like, fine, whatever. You know, we don't know what kind of food it is, but we're just hungry, and it's near a pond, so it's cute. And they sat us at a table that was right next to the door that leads out to the patio over the pond. And right as I'm about to sit down, didn't even sit down yet, I look over, and across the pond, I see 3 moose, or at least what I think are moose. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's moose. And so I start to go outside because the door's right there, and I'm like, I'm going to go check out these moose across the pond. And Rob, for some reason, gets like so embarrassed. He's like, Lindsay, sit down. We're in Colorado. They see moose all the time. Just be cool. And I'm like, no. You do you. I'm going to go check out these moose. I've never seen them before. So basically, they were these 3 young moose, and they proceed to come out into the pond. And because they're young, they're just literally like splashing and playing in the pond. And by a couple minutes, there's like 100 people all around the pond just like taking pictures and getting their phones out. And of course, Rob slowly makes his way out too and gets out his phone. Like, oh, okay, I guess it's cool to come out here. But they come all the way across the pond, literally, like the steps are right here coming out of the pond, and they're like right there. And it was just such a cool experience, you know, for me. Just, I've never seen moose, and I love animals, and it was just so cool. And even the people that worked at the restaurant were like, we've never seen this. This is just something that never happens. And so, but anyway, so afterwards we go and sit down at the table, and that's when Rob shared with me that the day before he had prayed specifically for me to see elk or moose. And so that was another moment where it was like, you know, I felt like a special God wink towards me, like, just like, that's how much I love you, Lindsay.
That's cool. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that was powerful. Not only because you're praying for something, then God answered it. And then when she starts tearing up, then I start getting emotional. And so that was a powerful moment to see God answering that prayer specifically because of the way I prayed it. And you got to understand that I'm like many of you, when you pray, it's like that prayer was like, God, I just pray, oh gosh, it's not going to happen. The elk didn't happen. How is God going to move on this? It's almost like a selfish prayer, but you're still, it's just a mustard seed prayer. It's like, and if you could do this moose thing, I don't even know if you didn't even do, and then all of a sudden he shows up. So just goes to show you mustard seed prayer, even in those moments. I would say three things. There's just so much that where God showed up. There's a picture next, I think. We went with Lindsay's mom to the Lost River Cave in Kentucky, so that was fun doing that.
That's cool. I've been there.
Yeah. They build it up like it's this huge, long pontoon ride, and it literally was. Okay, thanks for coming. But we got the tickets for free, so we were thankful. And those were the things that kept happening. People would just bless us, and so that was nice. The next picture is very special to me. This is Wilkerson's Pass. I've been there 3 times. There's a hiking trail that hikes up, and you got what it is. It's at 9,500 feet, and it comes to this plateau valley, and then around that surrounds it is all the Rocky Mountains, various that are going through Colorado, of course, and there's certain peaks, 14,000, 13,000, 14,000. You can see them all, and it's just a place that I go to. I feel like I can journal and meet with God. So our last day in Colorado was Sunday. I told Lindsay I'm going to go for a prayer walk, go hiking, and she says she's going to hang back at the hotel and go to the pool. So I left at 6 in the morning. I was just super excited. I knew I was going to go to Wilkerson's Pass, and I've been there in 2003. I went there in 2009. So it's just a place I feel like God really speaks to me there. And so when I was there, I hiked up, and I got to this one lookout, and I thought, this is a good spot. And I sat there, and I just felt like God wanted me to go another. But it's hard work to go up there. So I work my way up to this other lookout, and I find this other spot. Okay, this is great. This is where it is. And I start to get settled in there and start just to pray through things. And I just felt the prompting of the Spirit again. Let's go higher. I'm like, and I just kind of tried to make my way up. And I thought I was going in this direction. I come down and finally come to this one lookout, and it's just pristine. But it took a lot of work to get up there. And that's a picture from that spot, and just a clear view of everything. And for me, that was significant as I was praying through it. I felt like God was just showing me that that's been a picture of what he's called me into, that there's times when he's called me at a spot and there's this great view, but then he's asking me to go deeper. And it requires more work, but if I can plow through that, the view that's going to be the result of that.
Yeah.
And then, well, I'm here, and we get to this place where we think we are arriving, and then God wants to do even more work. And so that third time went up, just going up, and I had to come back down a little bit, slipped a little bit, kept working my way up, and then it came to this. And I think that was just a picture that God was saying, this is the journey that I'm calling you on. This is the journey that I call my people on, and that it's going to be hard work, but you just got to continue to believe. You got to have that resolve of belief. And I think that opened up some things where God was just really showing me that he wants me to move away from this driven, trying to prove myself mindset, and just let him. Let his Spirit lead. And how many of us get caught up in trying to prove ourselves, be driven? And it was just such a release to have that for 3 hours, just kind of going, but just take it in, just looking at everything, praying, journaling, and just feeling God working that out. And I had journaled all about it in my journal.
That's hard for a driven person.
It is very hard for me because, when you get back in this, it's hard not to default to what you know. And that's been the hardest part about coming in this week is just I feel like I'm having this personal tether I'm trying to hold me back from. Because when I get in that mode, I'm not who I am.
Right.
And that's the last thing I don't want, is I don't want to be something I'm not. I want to be what he's called me to. And when I'm doing that, then it affects her and affects my kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm coming back down. So I went up a different way. I'm coming back down a different way. And I just really wanted something, it was just such a powerful time that I want something. I always like to grab something to take with me to represent. Like in the Old Testament, they'd always put these rocks up as a reminder The Ark of the Covenant always had the 10 Commandments, had Aaron's staff in there as a reminder. And so I just wanted something because I just felt like it was such a powerful experience. And so I'm coming down this different way. I'm getting near the end, getting close to Highway 24 and crossing and going to where my Jeep was parked. And as I'm getting close, I just felt this, just to look over in this way. And in the brush, I found these. If we have them up there, these antlers.
Nice.
I'm like, no way.
Oh, that's
No
nice.
way. And I picked them up, and it was just like in that moment, I was so excited. It was like a kid getting a gift. And I grabbed it, and I just felt like that was just something God was just confirming. It's something because when I look at that, I think Wilkerson Pass 2020 and July 20th.
I don't know if that stokes your fire or not, but that's a guy find.
Yes.
It's a good thing.
So it was huge for me, and I threw it in the Jeep, and just thinking about that day, and it's just, I look back, and that just made me excited, and there's just a couple other things that Lindsay, the Jeep experience, when she started crying, that's what I wanted for her. I wanted her just to sense that. And then two other things.
Hang on. Why did you want that? Why did you want that for her? I mean, is there some significance in your relationship, or why do you want that for your bride?
I think that for her and for us, just the journey, the 11 years here at Encounter, there's been great moments and there's been tough moments, and there's been moments like, what are we doing? Are we cut out for this? And there's moments where sometimes you lose sight of what God's doing, and I just wanted her to recapture what He's called her. And so when I seen her go through that, just crying, just when we're driving up, that just was another answer to prayer, like the moose. And there was a couple other things that were significant. When we went to see her mom in Kentucky, we went to this arcade place and had these. They're like bumper cars, but they were in inner tubes because it was an indoor. And so we let Cameron have his own. And I'm thinking, this is going to be interesting. And Cameron forward, backward, yay, So he's just all excited. And so we start going, and the look on his face, I'll never forget that. Just the joy. See, in Scripture it says, God delights when His children are at play. And that, to me, just that moment spoke something to me, that the kingdom He's calling me to usher in, how I father my family and usher His kingdom into that, in that small kingdom, is so crucial. How I love them, how I treat them, and when I was seeing Him at play, that just spoke powerful to me. I mean, that's something I can't forget. I can't forget that. And then last Sunday, we were at Sessions Lake to kind of close it out, and we rented one of those mats. And so the kids were on there playing, but it was Lindsay, just her look when she was playing. She couldn't run across the mat the whole time, so she was like falling in. She'd laugh, and it was like this laugh that she hadn't laughed in years. Like this childhood laugh. And to me, I'm holding the mat, watching them play, and it just, God gave me a snapshot of that verse again of like, there is great joy. Now, I feel that now. I feel what that verse means. There's great joy when my children are at play, and I get to be a part of shaping my family. And so those experiences, I think, were crucial for me to really see what God wants to do in me and what He's calling me into as a father and as a husband.
Absolutely. Those things are easy for us to forget. When you're constantly carrying a load, doing the work, giving constantly, forget to laugh. Forget the belly laugh and just enjoy God's goodness towards us. Well, as you come back and you're kind of easing in, and so, by the way, we're going to have some guest speakers over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Rob and Lindsay are going to be here. So I just want to encourage you to still stay away from the cell phone and just let them breathe. We're trying to keep Rob out of the office just a little bit and let him ease back in as he goes a little bit. But are there rhythms that you want to keep in your life that you picked up while you were on sabbatical? Because we don't want the busyness of the day to crush those things, or cause you to leave them on vacation or in another state. So we want you to be able to ease back in a little bit. Are there rhythms that you want to continue in your life that happened while you were away? You can just say it. You
She
don't have
has
to look at her.
rhythm. I think for me it was just being intentional with my family.
Yeah, good.
So they got some other pictures here that were just, we were blessed. Darren's brother, who lives in Nashville, gave us, he works I think retired from Marina, but gave us a great deal on renting these pontoons for 2 days, and we swam in the Percy Priest Lake, which is a huge reservoir down there, and that was just fun. That was just relaxing, fun, and so, as you can tell, what happens. I mean, the Lawrence family, we go all out, okay? So, and the kids, and then Bob and Karen Willis, yeah, many of you know them. They let us stay at their cottage for a week here on Big Pine Island here in Belding. And so the kids just had a blast with coming off the pontoon. That was us in Florida, just enjoying our time. And so for me, making sure I'm intentional with that rhythm and not letting it get diluted with the world or culture or my own deficiencies, trying to find my worth and value in being driven or proving myself. When I say proving myself and driven, it's not just going to go away, but I want to be more aware of it and say, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm taking on the kingdom. I'm taking on the kingdom's life. And I think one of the parts for me that was slacking, and we talked about this, you and I, is this last year I got in a good rhythm of devotional time, going to the Word and reading books. I could consume books like crazy. On the sabbatical, I read 3 books, which is what I wanted to do, and loved every minute of it. But what seems to get away from that, when I get all this information and knowledge, if I don't go out in my prayer walks and process them like I did at Wilkerson's, right, then it starts to back up, it just doesn't have the effectiveness. And when I'm able to go out, and for me, getting out in God's creation, His beauty just speaks things to me that a book can't, or the day-to-day grind. So one of the things I think God challenged me to do is to rediscover again my prayer walks. Yeah. And so since I've been back, I've been intentional of getting out, whether it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes, just to take that moment and get out and get immersed in His creation, because that, to me, speaks. Yeah. It helps me process what He's shown me in His Word. See, it's easy to get into reading the Bible because I can do it as a driven person and somebody who can't sit down. It's easy for me to do the checklist. Okay, I got that done, and then you feel like you're I'm good with God, but it just felt like there was this lack of communication. Like, we're together, but we're not. Right. And that's something I think was a rhythm that God was bringing back, and it's something I value. My prayer walks have always been something I value. It's just got pushed aside, right, because of being proven and driven. Yeah. You got anything?
Just rhythms that you established maybe while you were on sabbatical that you would like to bring back into your regular lives?
I think for me, it's just being more mindful and aware of how we're spending our time. Mm-hmm. And is it worth it or is it not? Yeah. Because I don't think, for me, I didn't realize just how busy and go we were until really when COVID first hit and we were, quarantined in our house together, and we would play cards every day, me and him, and it was, so we got, we were starting to connect before we even went on sabbatical, and then we went to Colorado, and it was just really nice to have that connection again.
That's good.
Like he said, like with his prayer walks, it's like we're together, but are we really together? Are we really communicating and connecting? So just being more mindful and aware of that and making sure we are taking those times,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, those are some of the best moments in our relationships. You know, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but every year a pastor gets evaluated. Like there's a form that we fill out and we check boxes off. And one of those areas on that evaluation is how is Pastor Rob doing with his family? You know, in light of all of the things that are happening at church. And it's hard to get a perfect score in that area when it comes to the busyness of the church and the things that are happening on a daily basis. It's hard to get away because sometimes there's calls and stuff like that. So we've had conversations, Lindsay and I have had a couple I'm like, oh, how's he doing? How is he doing?
Yeah. That's like when they did that, when the board does that, which I'm very appreciative. Darren's like, I'm going to talk to your wife. I'm going to set up a time to talk with her and see how it is. And I'm like, so I went back and started smoking a cigarette because I was nervous. What is she going to say? You know? So, but I think she speaks to that because that's an area, like so many of us, we can get so bogged down by what we think is important. And sabbatical for me was this is the first time I think for me, since somewhat, I guess, before college, even before I ever was able to shut down and just really take a stop and say, where's life going? And God, where are you leading me? And what direction are you taking me? There was two things we talked the last breakfast before, because the board the idea was Darren, I asked him to be, but I needed a sabbatical coach to prep. And so we'd go down to the cafe downtown and
Little perk.
Yeah.
Being the sabbatical coach.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the perks. And I said I wanted two things really to know more. I want to know more God's providence, His sovereign will, and I want to understand this rowboat analogy. And if you don't know what that is, God brought this to me about a year ago. In the Old Testament, in Hebrew culture, they use this analogy of a rowboat when you're trying to figure out your life and where God's taking you. He says, walking with God, this Hebrew analogy is like being in a rowboat, because we're all trying to go to the future, but our back's towards it. You get it? And all you have is your past. And so the analogy is, or the metaphor is in order to direct yourself as you're rowing to the direction that God has for you, you have to interpret your past with the lens of Him. What ways have you been rowing in the wrong direction?
Right.
Where do you have to correct? And the only way to do that is going into the past and allowing God to speak to some places and spaces that you have left unresolved. And so for me, that's what I wanted to take into sabbatical is it could be minor things. Maybe you've dealt with a lot of it. It could be something minor, but just not being afraid, but being open to that and allowing God to speak truth in that. And there may be some confidence, something that you left there that God wants to have you rediscover who He's made you to be and pick up His identity by seeing that, and then your future will be rowing in the right direction. Because as you're rowing, you're in the present, but it's how you're interpreting where you've come from. It's going to make the difference of where you're going. And so that was just, he hasn't fully answered that, but it's coming together in my prayer time.
I have a feeling that that's going to preach.
That will preach sometime, but
Okay.
The providence thing and knowing that His hand has always been on it, and then just that rowboat. So that was, I felt like He was bringing some more light to that for me.
Good. Well, that's all I have for you today, and we just wanted to express our honor and our gratitude to you guys for the way that you have sacrificed for this body of believers in ways that a lot of people don't see. And so we hope that you were just able to enjoy this time away. I'm very excited that you're back. It's been good to have you back already, but we just want to say just thank you so much. Lindsay, for sharing your husband with us, for allowing us to, sometimes it's like it's withdrawing from this family relationship account that you have. Sometimes we're pulling him away from that. So we're just grateful for your willingness to sacrifice in that way for this church body and for all that you do, Pastor Rob. So thanks so much for coming up. We're going to let you guys have a seat. Will you guys just give them some appreciation there? So you guys have made an incredible impact in our lives here in this church, but there are also some people from your past that you have just impacted their lives greatly. And so they wanted to tell you. And so we put together just a little bit of a video that's going to be up here on the screen, and we just want to share that with you this morning.